California, at least 13 people were arrested as hundreds blocked traffic on 2 major highways, waving Mexican flags and burning a giant effigy of Donald Trump. Police fired rubber bullets, and pepper spray at hundreds of protesters after the crowds took over major intersections.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
Fraud, homophobia, sexual assault, white supremacy.
In terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And a will to risk to make things better, and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities.
White privilege!
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
Here in New York, as many as 10,000 people surged through the streets and surrounded the barricaded-off Trump Tower where Donald Trump lives.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
We reject the president-elect! Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
I think it speaks to the disenfranchisement of the people that someone like him could be seen as offering anything to the masses.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Little snowflake falling from the sky.
What about gay people? Trump has vowed to protect the LGBT community from a fanatical ideology that represents its biggest threat: radical Islam.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
He is a racist.
Under Obama, more black people are living below the poverty line. The number of African Americans on food stamps has increased 58% under Obama.
On every leading economic issue, on the major economic issues, black Americans have lost ground in every one of those leading categories. So for the last 10 years, it's not been good for black folks.
Is this how the left helps black communities? By making them poorer and more dependent on government. Race relations are at their worst in decades. 8 years of Obama has been devastating for the black community.
He is a sexist. He is a neo-Nazi.
Well, we don't understand why you called in the National Guard.
Falling on my nose.
Not my president. He is a lying ass.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake,
Fake ass.
little snowflake falling from the sky.
Dumb ass son of a bitch.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake falling, 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 falling.
That's not my president. That's not my president.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Falling in my hand.
Thank you for taking America back 60 years of progress.
Falling on my head.
You just voted in a Nazi fascist.
Falling on my nose. Falling in my hand. Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do?
The following is a Nightside Radio Studios production. From the wind-powered Nightside radio studios,
tear down this wall.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
It's this man. It's the compassion. It's the dignity. It's the wisdom. It's the horse sense of the guy.
Did you know that 65% of the people murdered in the last 10 years were killed by handguns?
Would it make you feel any better, little girl, if they was pushed out of windows?
The American people have seen the truth, and they can see through your lies. There's coming a day when publications such as yours turn into nothing more than flea market advertising. They'll be handing it out for free in grocery store parking lots under everybody's windshield wiper. Yeah, that's the future for the Washington Post and the New York Times and every other liberal publication in this country. We are not going to tolerate your bull anymore. None of it. The American people are fed up. I thought we made that clear on November 8th, but apparently you people in the media just don't get it. A new chapter in American history begins now.
It is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
We are a team.
They said it couldn't be done.
Together we will lead our party back to the White House.
He said it must be done.
Beginning on January 20th, we cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Here's J.J. McCartney.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your Monday, the 29th day of January. How you doing? I am J.J. McCartney, and for the next 2 hours, we're going to have some conversation today, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to make you a promise today. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I will be Mr. Laid Back. I am going to be mellow today. I'm not going to get shouty. I'm not going to get pouty. I'm not going to get loud. I'm going to just be me. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. And, you know, I hope you had a great weekend. I had a phenomenal weekend. It was great. I didn't do anything. But you know what I especially didn't do over the weekend? And I know a lot of you didn't either. As a matter of fact, a record low number of people did this over the weekend. And that is watched the Grammy Awards. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I kid you not. The Grammy Awards this year were the lamest ever. And the American people, they made up their mind. The American people made up their minds. And you know what they decided? The American people are choosing President Trump and rejecting these hoity-toity, snooty, condescending, stupid B-list celebrities that deign to tell you and me what we should think politically. Now, why would they do that? You know what? I've always said this about singers and about musicians, and it's simply this. Just shut up and sing, or shut up and play your instrument. But don't you dare tell me how you think I should think. Because I'll tell you something. I've been thinking all my life. I don't need any pointers from you. You condescending, arrogant, nothing burgers. Okay. Now, see, I didn't yell, I didn't shout. I'm going to stay mellow today. I'm going to be as mellow as I've ever been. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the dulcet tones of J.J. McCartney. I'm going to keep my blood pressure in check today. I've got my sublingual vitamin B12, a ready, handy supply of it. I actually have 2 more bottles on the way. I am not going to get excited today, no matter what. Oh, sure, President Trump himself could call me on the show, and I would not get too excited. I'm sure I would talk to him. Mr. President, if you're listening, I have a toll-free number because I don't want you to have to spend a penny. 855-853-5227. Those of you listening at home, if you'd like to join us, that's the telephone number. Now, I want to, first of all, I want to go to a couple of sound bites here. We had mentioned this story last week. And I wanted to revisit it because it is a significant, it really is a significant story. Google has this new thing, Google Home. You know, the little speaker you talk into, and you can ask it anything. But if you ask it about Jesus, if you ask Google Home about Jesus, this is what you'll get.
Okay, friends, earlier today I saw a post on Facebook. I have no idea if it's true or not, but I'm going to check it out for myself to see whether or not it's real news or fake news. Here we go. I'm testing my Google Home in Brentwood, Tennessee. Here we go. Okay, Google, who is Jesus Christ?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
Interesting. Okay, Google, who is Buddha?
According to Wikipedia, Gautama Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautama, Shakyamuni Buddha, or simply the Buddha, after the title of Buddha, was an ascetic and sage on whose teachings Buddhism was founded.
Okay, Google, who is David Sams?
By the way, David Sams is the individual talking. It's just so you know.
The summary from Wikipedia, David Ronald Sams is a television producer, author, speaker, emerging technologies guru and serial entrepreneur who helped build the success of several syndicated versions of such television programs, including The Oprah Winfrey Show.
Okay, Google, who is Jesus?
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that.
Unbelievable. Let's try, okay, Google, who is Jesus Christ?
My apologies. I don't understand.
Well, there you have it. That previous post I saw is absolutely correct. It is not fake news, ladies and gentlemen. Google apparently has a problem with revealing Jesus utilizing its smart audio products. How very unfortunate.
Well, isn't that something? You know, we saw the story last week, and I wanted to expound on it today. You know, Google prides itself in accumulating everything worth knowing so that it can help you get the information you need at a moment's notice. But if you want to stump Google Home, just ask who Jesus is. So we know David Sams tried this, posted his video. Quickly it went viral. And for the rest of the story, we go to a very for anybody in the media to take note of this is, I think, encouraging, because now we're making the masses aware. And here is a television report on the subject of Google Home and Jesus Christ.
One of the most popular Christmas gifts this year, voice-activated Google Home.
Sorry, thanks for telling me.
David Sams owns one and an Amazon Echo. Both give two different answers when asking, who is Jesus Christ?
Okay, Google, who is Jesus?
My apologies. I don't understand.
I even asked Google who was David Sams. Google knew who I was. But Google did not know who Jesus was. Google did not know who Jesus Christ was. and Google did not know who God was.
Smart speakers are a technology owned by about 40 million Americans. That's about 1 in 6. And this religious conversation at home is making waves on social media. Comments, videos, and test results posted asking who is Jesus. The general response from Google Home is, I'm not sure how to help you with that.
So what does this tell you? What is the only conclusion that a thinking person can reach based on the information? This is no accident. Oh, this is not some glitch in any system. This is on purpose. This is a globalist company, a globalist corporation, making a conscious decision to try and remove Jesus Christ from its knowledge base, from its search engines, so that people seeking will have a hard time finding out. Now look, there's a dangerous assumption being made by a lot of people, and that dangerous assumption is, oh, well, everybody knows who Jesus is. Well, that's just not true. And when you consider the goal of Google is to be as prolific as possible with their product, Google Home, already in 40 million American homes, and who knows how many around the world. And yet, I have to believe no matter which language you speak, when you ask Google Home, who is Jesus Christ, the forthcoming answer is no answer at all. It's, I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer that. Or, gee, I just don't know. Or something, words to that effect. I'm afraid I can't help you with that. Yeah. It's no accident, ladies and gentlemen. This is deliberate.
Still no response from the Google company on why.
That's pretty scary. It's almost like Google has taken Jesus and God out of smart audio. First it started with schools.
Sorry, I don't understand.
There you go. See? She still doesn't understand.
Google Home refers to Jesus Christ when asking about the Last Supper and even St. Peter. And there's plenty of information on the Prophet Muhammad, Buddha, even Satan.
They took prayer out of schools. They just think that taking Jesus out of everything is politically correct these days, and I think that's the stem of a lot of our problems.
Absolutely right. That is the stem of a lot of our problems, is the efforts by people on the left, globalists, high-tech companies. I mean, what do you suppose would move somebody to make the conscious decision to do this? Ladies and gentlemen, there's something going on around the world right now. Christians are being slaughtered in the Middle East. Christians are being persecuted all around the world. And now you have what can only be described as a conspiracy to remove Jesus from the most prolific search engine in the world. And the fact that Google is the most prolific search engine in the world, I think they suffer from a case of arrogance at Google in thinking that they really don't have to answer to us. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Okay, let's hear the finale of this report.
Martin Collins has no doubt Google has purposefully programmed Jesus out of its audio speakers.
Keep from stepping on toes, politically correctness. I mean, that seems to be the thing these days more than just what's right and what's wrong.
Sam's calling for answers from Google as it's become a main source of information readily available that so many are becoming to depend on.
I don't know if there's a wizard over there at Google who's making these decisions, or if it's some kind of oversight. But it's definitely something that they need to address and address immediately.
Absolutely. That's the bottom line. So there you go, folks. We've got much more to come on the Monday Rundown here on this 29th day of January. I am J.J. McCartney. Phone lines are open at 855-853-5227. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mellow Monday Rundown. We've got much more to come in just a minute.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney back here for our good friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. You know, folks, there's one thing that there never seems to be a shortage of in this world, and that is uncertainty, unrest. You know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Natural disasters, economic downturns, whatever it is, you can be prepared by going to MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. They have got everything you need, from ProPure gravity-fed water filtration systems to Kimberly stoves to these composting toilets. Ladies and gentlemen, at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com, you can prepare for anything. Food storage, no problem. Advice, no problem. Call our good friend Sue at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Find out what's there for you. Great prices, great advice, and guess what, folks? You'll find it all at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com.
I'm pretty sure what's killing the crops is this Brondo stuff.
The Brondo's got what plants crave. It's got electrolytes.
So wait a minute. What you're saying is that you want us to put water on the crops?
Yes.
Water? Like out the toilet?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be out of the toilet, but yeah, that's the idea.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
The plants aren't growing, so I'm pretty sure that the Brondo's not working. Now, I'm no botanist, but I do know that if you put water on plants, they grow.
Well, I've never seen no plants grow out of no toilet.
Why don't we just try it, okay? And not worry about what plants crave.
Brondo's got what plants crave. Yeah, it's got electrolytes.
What are electrolytes? Do you even know?
It's what they use to make Brondo.
Yeah, but why do they use them to make Brondo?
Because Brondo's got electrolytes.
Hey, shh. Listen. Do you hear that? It's your heart. Chances are you take that precious sound for granted. And if you're like a lot of Americans, 1/3 to be exact, you're not doing anything to prevent heart disease. So what if a cardiologist told you exactly how best to love your heart? Would you listen then? Go to clevelandclinic.org/loveyourheart and learn what really matters and what doesn't when it comes to that lovable heart of yours.
You're listening to The J.J. McCartney Show. If you would like to learn more about being a guest on the show or just have a suggestion or comment, send your comments to the show at jjmccartney.com. The J.J. McCartney Show is broadcast by the Nightside Radio Studios in cooperation with PatriotFB.com.
Did you know that 63% of homes contain allergens from cockroaches? And that mice spread potent asthma triggers found in 82% of homes? It's true. Common household pests are major offenders on the list of indoor allergens. Learn what you can do to help your family breathe easier. Visit pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association and the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America.
All right, we are back on the Monday edition of the J.J. McCartney Show. We call it the Monday Rundown, and well, I'm afraid. Well, you know, I've got to trust my phone system. It says that we have Donald Trump on the line from New Jersey, of all places. What in the world is the president doing in New Jersey, I wonder? Hello, caller. You're on the J.J. McCartney Show.
Hello?
Hello.
Yep. Yes. Hi, I'd just like to talk about the president in his first year.
Okay, let's hear your take on it. By the way, what's your name? What's your name?
I think that my name's Kate.
Kate, okay. You think that he's what?
I think that he's not a good president.
Do you have a 401k?
What do you mean?
Do you have a 401k retirement account?
I'm 20.
You know what? 20-year-olds have 401ks too, as long as they work for a living. Do you work for a living?
Not yet. I'm still in college.
Oh, really? So you've never worked?
Worked some jobs, but nothing big.
So what are you basing your assessment of President Trump on?
The way he talks.
Really? So you don't like the way he talks? Specifics. I want specifics.
Have we called countries shitholes?
That did not happen. Didn't happen.
You don't watch the news?
Apparently you're addicted to the fake news, and no, he did not say that those countries were shitholes. Taken out of context completely. What else? What else have you?
To say that, though.
What else have you got? Kate, Kate, like you've never said anything like that about anybody? You've never called anybody a shithead or a dumbass or something like that? In a moment of frank honesty, you've never done that?
I've said it, but I'm not the president.
Well, no, you're not. Donald Trump is. You look at the numbers since Donald Trump took the presidency. You look at the gross domestic product. You look at the stock market. You look at every metric of our economy. This president has led America on an unprecedented recovery, the kind that not even Ronald Reagan would be looking up at this. So what is it that you don't like about Donald Trump? You say you don't like the way he talks. Give me more specifics. I mean, what substantive-wise do you not like about the man?
I think he's got some right intentions, but he needs to kind of watch what he says.
And
like you mentioned, the stock market, he does a good job with that, but I think if he tones it down a little bit, he would be a lot better.
Well, what ideology are you coming from? I mean, what are your political views?
Liberal.
You say so. You don't like the way he talks, and you think he's doing fine on the economy, but you don't like the way he talks. What exactly would you have the man say? What exactly does he need to be saying, and what does he not need to be saying?
He needs to cut with stay working on keeping the government running and kind of stop it going on Twitter and causing all these problems.
Now let's look at this a little differently, Kate. You know what Twitter is to the president? It's what Twitter is to the president.
Say whatever he wants.
No. You're misreading this, and you're misreading it badly. The president uses Twitter to speak directly to the American people. And do you know why he uses Twitter? He uses Twitter because...
like to...
No. Let me finish. He uses Twitter because it's unfiltered. The mainstream media filters everything. They will parse every word that comes out of this president's mouth and try and shape the narrative, not based on what he actually said, but on their interpretations, based on their own political slants. So he uses Twitter because Twitter goes directly to the people, and there is no filtering mechanism. And so when he has something to say, whether it's forceful, whether it's complimentary, or whether it's critical of somebody or something, he wants to be able to connect directly to the people without having to go through the filtered mainstream media. And by doing that, he has effectively communicated many points, and the American people have now started to change the way they feel about his method of communication. You see, when you are a conservative or semi-conservative or even a moderate politician, and you want to effectively communicate to the American people, you really cannot rely on the fake news. I mean, we have caught CNN, MSNBC, all types of different, the mainstream media networks, ABC, NBC, Fox, and CBS.
I don't watch those.
Well, but what I'm saying is he's cut them out of the equation. He's speaking directly to the American people. There was only one other American president that was more effective at doing that, and that was the aforementioned Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan could get on television And he could speak his point so eloquently that the American people, there was no misunderstanding what the man said. And the news media they were apoplectic then as well. But see, Donald Trump has fired the news media by going through Twitter. Do you see how that makes sense for a politician whose every word is parsed and the whole thing about the media right now, their narrative is get Donald Trump. That is their narrative. That is their goal. That is their mission. So why in the world would the president rely on people with that mission to get his message in front of the people?
Because of things like Access Hollywood.
Access Hollywood? Are you seriously telling me that Access Hollywood is... I mean, seriously. What was Access Hollywood doing? What was Access Hollywood doing when... you're too young to remember this, but what was Access Hollywood doing when Bill Clinton was getting orally served by a 19-year-old intern in the Oval Office? Where was the criticism?
That's terrible. That's why I didn't vote for her.
Okay. Well, that's great. I at least you didn't vote for her. But the whole point is, and history will be the judge of what kind of president Donald Trump is. I'm not going to pretend I can see in the future and know exactly what all of the results of his presidency will be. But I do believe this. His mantra, "Make America Great Again," has led to a very sizable segment of the American people taking pride again in what America could be. And see, this is one of the things I feel we lost, especially during the Clinton years and the Obama years. The Clinton years were a time when cynicism began to rule the roost because the American people knew exactly what Bill Clinton had done, and there was absolutely no shame. There was no shame about it within the Clinton administration. And when it came to Obama, I mean, Obama was going all around the world telling everybody how America is, not this perfect country, and how America is, has done terrible things, and how America is just awful. And what he was doing in running down America, especially doing it on foreign soil, was, this was a period of decline. It really was. During Obama's presidency, he was president for 8 years, the American gross domestic product never got up to as high as 3%. Never. And Barack Obama was telling the American people, well, this is the new normal. I mean, this is as good as it gets. But basically, that was his message. Now, Donald Trump, you have to give him credit for the fact that he really does know economics. What the media chose not to tell the American people about Donald Trump was that he was a graduate of the Wharton School of Economics, perhaps the most prestigious school of economics in the world. And he knew what he was talking about. Regardless of all of the, it doesn't matter how many Access Hollywood hit pieces there are against Donald Trump. It doesn't change what the man's capable of doing. And in this particular case, when you look at the American economy and understanding how the American economy will work, the American economy does not work if industry in America is not productive. If we don't manufacture things in the United States, and if we don't bring the jobs back to the United States, nothing will ever change in terms of the American people's ability to prosper. And, without prosperity, the American dream is hollow. Without the ability for people to go to work, apply themselves, equal parts capability and effort. If the American people don't believe that can work for them, do you know what that does to the morale of the American people? For them to feel like they're stuck and they can never get out of their situation, whether the situation is that they're in debt whether the situation is they feel like nobody's listening to them. I mean, when you look at the federal government, what do you see? When you look at the size of the federal government, the amount of money it spends on a lot of things that the country doesn't really... Exactly. It was never intended to be this all-powerful nanny state. And that's what we wound up with. And whether you're a liberal...
I want a smaller government.
Exactly right.
I don't want all that.
The
only thing I did, I almost voted for the president, but I didn't vote at all. I never was going to vote for that witch Hillary, because she would do nothing for me and my little sister.
Well,
but now when I see all these other people, all I want to do is if Donald Trump, I'll vote for him next time if he helps us out a little bit. I oppose abortion and all that.
What's that?
But if he gets rid of that, that's a thing. Dropping Planned Parenthood.
Okay, what is your view on that? I missed what you said.
I think it should be illegal. It's wrong.
Okay. And you call yourself a liberal?
Mainly my parents are liberals.
Well, you know what? It sounds to me
I have to do it.
It sounds to me...
This is where I am.
You know what? Honestly, let me just give you a little bit of advice, if I may. I'm not trying to be condescending. I just want to give you a little bit of advice. Don't ever change your core because you're afraid of what other people will think of you. Don't do that, because you know what? It sounds to me like you have a pretty good brain. When it comes to issues, values issues like abortion, I think, the thing that you have to be able to look in the mirror and respect yourself. You're 20 years old. You're on the cusp of adulthood. And regardless of whose house you live in, your views belong to you. And you don't have to change those views for anybody. I believe, honestly, I think you're on the right track. I honestly do. I think you're on the right track. And the thing I want to encourage everybody to do is be honest with yourself. Don't ever be timid when it comes to things that you are passionate about. Whether it's abortion, whether it's any number of things, socially. The fact that you believe the government is too big, it's bloated, it's doing too much, and it's trying to do too much, I absolutely agree with that. And to me, see, that is a core principle of conservatism. The Constitution gave the power to we the people. It did not give the power. As a matter of fact, the Constitution really didn't form the government. The Constitution gave us the ability to form the government. And at some point in time, people have forgotten the chain of command that created the federal government went through the American people and through the states. And for far too long, we've acted as though the superior being was the federal government, when in fact the federal government is a beast that's running wild right now, and it needs to be chained down. It needs to be tamed. That's what we have to do. If we're ever going to see America change for the better on a permanent basis, that we have to teach everybody that they're the ones that control ultimately where this government goes and what it does. And I think you're on the right track. I really do. I think if these are your honest viewpoints, you're against abortion, you think it's morally wrong, you're against big government. I understand wanting the president to tone down his rhetoric. I do. As a matter of fact, if you listen to me for the last year, my biggest criticism of the president was I thought he was tweeting too often. And you know what? I could still live with fewer tweets and with a little bit more discretion with his tweets. But if anybody out there thinks that he's going to get a fair shake from that mainstream media, they're kidding themselves. And what I feel, honestly, you being 20 years old, you've already formed a core set of beliefs inside yourself. And if you are honestly passionate about these things, and if you know that what you're doing is right, Don't ever let anybody pressure you into compromising those core values, because those will stick with you the rest of your life. And you know what? It's not easy, honestly, because the pressure, the peer pressure that's out there is immense. And I know this. It is. The peer pressure is immense, especially among people that are irresponsible, that don't take their duties as a citizen seriously. And if you do, Kate, you take those responsibilities seriously, you'll never have to look in the mirror and not like what you see. Be true to yourself.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you calling. I really do. What part of New Jersey are you from?
Me? From Newark.
Ah, so you're just across the river from New York. Obviously,
I live in New York now.
Obviously, when 9/11 happened, you were just a few years old. But has that impacted your life, 9/11? Or were you too young to really take it?
Yes.
What is the average effect on people your age based on the events of 9/11? How do you view it?
It kind of messed everything up.
You know, there's so much out there on the internet about 9/11. A lot of people don't know what to believe. But, you know, all you have to do...
I think that there's some sketchy stuff with it.
Right. Yep. There's a lot of speculation out there about, well, where did the buildings go? You know, how do you implode a building that big that's made of concrete and steel? And the bodies. I mean, there are still 1,100 victims that died on 9/11, the World Trade Center, that they have not found a trace of. Not a spot of DNA, not a bone fragment, not a fingernail, nothing. And yeah, you know, a building imploding, that could be a pretty big deal, but if there's 3,000 bodies and you can't find 1,100 of them, I mean, doesn't that, I mean, well, okay, I guess there's more like 2,750 bodies, but 1,100, that's not a small percentage. Where did they go? What, you know, it really confuses me that...
There's still more out there, though.
Well, yeah, exactly.
All the people that died after because they lied about the air.
Yeah, you know,
that's why my friend doesn't have a dad anymore. That's
something that I really think that people should understand, is that, you know, the death toll from 9/11 is still growing. And the media doesn't talk about it much anymore. But, you know, there's so many things that had to go right if you're a terrorist for those buildings to come down. It, to me, it kind of defies logic and it defies science that those buildings came down in the way that they did, and that they weren't able to find. See, here's what I want to know. You tell me if this is crazy, okay? The top floors of 9/11, the top floors of the two Twin Towers. It would seem to me that the very top floors and what was on the roof would have survived the collapse and the fall, wouldn't they? Because they weren't under all of the debris. They were on top of it. And yet they can't...
They blew up the buildings. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing.
They put bombs in them.
They
got rid of it the day after.
I'm glad you said that. I really am, because, you know, I've said it before that there was a lot more going on than what met the eye on 9/11. The media was so quick to gobble up this narrative, and they have never really done any introspection about what happened on 9/11. They simply gobbled up the official narrative and never questioned it in the mainstream media. And yet we have thousands of architects, engineers, military weapons experts, demolition crews, all of these people looking at the implosion of these two buildings and understanding what they were seeing. To the layperson, you might not recognize what it looks like for a building to implode. But for people that are in the business of imploding buildings, there were some pretty obvious signs that they were using things like Thermex or thermite to weaken the steel structures of the Twin Towers. I mean, it was very clear. When you have molten steel pouring out the corner of Tower number 2 before it fell, it takes thousands of degrees of heat to turn steel into a liquid. And the maximum temperature of a jet fuel fire is about 1,000 degrees. And, just see molten steel pouring out the corner of the second tower. To me, that was, that's a smoking gun. Now, how do most people your age feel about the theory that 9/11 was much more of a criminal act than necessarily just terrorism?
They really don't even. They just care about. All they're talking about is just worthless things.
I don't want to sound critical of young people because they're the only hope we have for the future. They really are. You included.
There really is no hope if you really think about it. You gotta really buckle down.
I think the education system has been so badly compromised, and the only way that we can pull out of this dive that we're in is it's a moral dive as much as it is a dive of intelligence. And the bottom line is, if you can't get people to pay attention to what's happening, then how in the world are you going to teach them how to keep it from happening? That's, but listen, Kate, I thank you for the call. I really do. It's been great talking to you, and I hope you'll come back and visit with us again. I think you're a bright young person, and I really do hope that you can, stand your ground and just be yourself. Don't let anybody guilt you into feeling any other way about the things you believe, because there's merit to what you believe and you think.
Okay.
Well, listen, thank you so much for calling, and don't be a stranger. Come back again, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with more on the Monday edition, the Monday Rundown on the J.J. McCartney Show. We'll be right back.
If you agree with JJ's conservative pillars for rescuing America's economy, stay tuned for more. If you are a liberal and think everything is okay, you can go pet your unicorn now.
This was not what I was expecting at all. I just thought someone was going to ask me my career plans, and that would be it.
Scared Straight, Liberal Arts Edition.
Coming? Now shut up and listen. I majored in the humanities. I racked up $200,000 worth of debt, majoring in studio art and film studies. What was I thinking?
My name is Laura. I'm a creative writing major. I wanted to write fairy tales, and now I live with my parents.
My name's Mateo, and my major was ceramics with a minor in electronic music. I can't even get a job at Pottery Barn.
You can't look someone in the eyes and say, I studied the tribal dance of the Hopi Indians.
Everybody put up the number 4 in the air. That's how many years you have to make it right. If you go to grad school, that's another 4 years.
Don't go to grad school!
Don't go to grad school!
You think that's funny? I racked up another $100,000 worth of debt in grad school. Wipe that smirk off your face. I'm gonna be paying off my student debt until I'm dead.
When you're the oldest person working at a coffee bean, you come find me and tell me you don't drink yourself to sleep.
What's your major? Music? You better learn how to make ringtones.
I'll hand you my phone, all right? Yeah. I want you to take it, I want you to put it up to your ear. And I want you to repeat after me. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Can I have $1,000 for rent this month?
Can I have $1,000 for rent this month?
Yeah, you're gonna be saying that every month until you decide to become a teacher at 32.
Do you have a Costco card?
Of course I don't have a Costco card. There are membership fees for that. We brought you here. We're yelling at you because nobody else will.
Don't let this happen to you.
I mean, I'm used to these kind of talks.
I'd rather hear it from angry people than from my parents.
on the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
So we've got our neighbor Paul coming over tonight for a barbecue, which is why I prepared a delicious lemon rosemary steak marinade from my special collection of old family recipes. To make sure the steaks are extra tender, I left them marinating out on the counter overnight, just like Nana used to.
Maria may mean well, but without food safety, it never ends well. Always thaw or marinate foods in the refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or you could make your friends and family really sick. Maria's neighbor Paul didn't think twice about the steak he ate until he was presenting his company's financial forecast to the board. That's when a sudden bout of food poisoning made it explicitly clear that profits weren't the only thing on the rise. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov. You'll learn the right steps as Maria does everything wrong. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Learn more about who we are and what we do by clicking the About Us tab at jjmccartney.com. The show will continue after these messages.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, we are back on the Monday Rundown here at jjmccartney.com and Red State Talk Radio. It's good to have you with us today, folks. It's a mellow Monday. That's right. I'm keeping my blood pressure in check. I want to thank Kate again for calling in today. You know, one of the problems we've run into, generationally speaking, it's very easy to stop listening. Sometimes it's way too tempting sometimes to say, well, you know, but you know, young people are very important to our cause. They really are. And you know, when I was young, I never liked being dismissed by somebody that was older, simply based on the fact that they didn't respect my point of view, my worldview, or anything else. They didn't think I had enough experience in life to actually have valid viewpoints. Well, folks, when you are a young person, the one thing that you want is some validation, especially when you're growing into adulthood. And you know, I gotta hand it to Kate for calling in, because young people tend to be dismissed by older people, and it's always wrong. You need to listen to the moral concerns and, you know, the concerns that they may have politically or whatever it is. You know, you reach a certain age and you are responsible for your own livelihood, your own existence. Criminally, if you were to commit a crime, you'd be responsible for it. And I think it's just, you know, we need to be more attentive to what young people are thinking and saying. We really do. And at the same time, we need to take the time to talk to them. It is so easy. It really is. It's so easy for people of a certain age. And, you know, I'm 55 now, and, you know, I tend to sometimes daydream about, you know, being somewhere where, you know, grapefruit grow, where there's white sand and warm temperatures, and there's never a chance of snow. Sometimes I get caught up in thinking about what it might actually be like to live the life of a retiree. And yet at the same time, it's like we've got an awful serious dilemma on our hands in this country and in this world. And when I speak to somebody that's that young, I naturally go back and I remember when I was that young. Okay, let's go back to the phones again. Hello, caller, you're on the J.J. McCartney Show.
Hello?
Hello. Yes, hello.
Yes, hi. I just want to fill you in on some stuff.
Okay.
I'm 38 years old.
Who am I talking to?
And
who am I talking to?
Back then.
I'm sorry?
My name's Bob.
Your name's Bob. And you're from, where are you from, Bob?
Yes. Me? I'm from Staten Island.
Okay.
And I'm currently in the FDNY.
Okay.
I'm retired in about a month or two.
Okay.
Or not retired. I'm taking time off.
All right.
To do more training, but I was there on 9/11, and yeah, it was a crazy day. I'll never forget.
You must have been fairly new to the job back then.
Yeah, very new.
What
it was, first year?
What did you take away from that experience? Obviously, it would be a life-changing experience.
Pretty much the way that life's short, and some days, one day might be your last.
Right. Yeah, 9/11 was it was a game changer for everybody, and I cannot imagine, watching so many of your fellow firefighters perish that way. I imagine there's not a day that goes by that you don't think about it.
Never. Always thinking about it.
Wow. Honestly, the work you guys do is, well, it's amazing. I worry sometimes that we don't take good care enough of our first responders, and especially after 9/11. I mean, the everything that they knew about the asbestos and the toxic air that everybody was breathing. I just wish that there was a better way to treat our first responders, especially, when you walk into the burning building when everyone else is running away from it. That's a pretty special thing.
Yeah. I think that they just, them lying to us about saying, oh, the air was safe to breathe and all that, when you can clearly see now that everyone's now getting sick, and some guys are now dying over it.
The day it happened.
Guys in their 50s.
The day it happened, even if the air was toxic, the job had to get done, and your fellow firefighters,
oh, yeah.
They didn't think twice. They just did it. And
yeah, it's sad. A lot of guys just ran in and they didn't tell anybody. They never checked in. They just went in and and then no one knew they were in there, and we lost them. But it's better now. I think that with Trump, he's gonna pretty much keep all these terrorists out of here.
I sure hope so.
That travel ban was awesome.
Yeah,
great.
I really hope that's the case. I absolutely do. This is not about treating people fairly. It is about taking the responsibility of protecting your nation seriously. And it's these people from other countries that don't speak the language, they don't know anything culturally. They arrive here and they don't have anything to contribute. They really don't. Except
the main problem of the whole situation is pretty much the U.S. and the Middle East. Why we ever got there, and
and the pretense,
off war.
Yeah, the pretenses under which we went there were very flimsy, and we're going to run out of time here in just a minute, but I want to thank you for the call, and we could certainly continue the conversation. We'll be back, folks. Hour number 2 is coming up next on the J.J. McCartney Show. Thanks for the call. We'll be back with hour number 2 on RedStateTalkRadio.com and JJMcCartney.com. Coming up next. Are these the first volleys in America's next civil war?
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and he's a bitch.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
And he can suck my
He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any other day of the week and give him a Louisville Slugger.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Kiss my mother.
Which side of the aisle is really spewing hateful rhetoric?
Pointing what appears to be a water gun at the image of President Donald Trump projected on a whiteboard, art teacher Pale Modi has now been seen by countless viewers.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, the J.J. McCartney Show, exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state.
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage.
How much longer can America survive this kind of hatred?
Video depicting comedian Kathy Griffin holding the bloody, decapitated head of President Trump are no joking matter for the Secret Service.
The rhetoric that has inspired the violence has come from the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
They're involved in the coup, an active attempt to start a bloody civil war.
I want people to imagine an FBI director that has the stones to investigate the deep state. Imagine a justice system that has the integrity to prosecute corrupt government officials. They have refused to apply the 14th Amendment and give conservatives equal protection under the law. What we've seen here has been the gradual takeover of the government by corporatism, by globalism. They have wrested control of our government away from the citizenry and put it in the hands of a few special interests. And these special interests are as evil as the day is long.
We finally do have a president who has the integrity to do this. We finally do have a DOJ who has the integrity to do this. We know that we have people around the president who not only have the integrity, but have the information and the contacts to get everything done you just said. And you say, well, why aren't they doing it? Everything you're seeing on the news, that's what it's about. That's what this investigation's about. That's what calls of impeachment are about. That's what the globalist attack against Trump is about. That's what the hearings are about. That's what the allegations of Russian spying are about. It's about keeping them off point, keeping them off the agenda, keeping them off task. A lot of what you're watching happening right now, and the misdirection and the complete trying to keep Trump off target goes to that birth certificate. The worst crime in American history was perpetrated against America under the regime of Barack Obama. The media is complicit. Congress is complicit. Federal law enforcement apparently has been complicit. We've got a CIA whistleblower, Dennis Montgomery, whose attorney, Larry Klayman, put it all over the internet the other day that he has said that all of this spying that's been going on American people, that it resulted in manipulation and collusion with judges, Supreme Court justices, congressmen, etc., that James Comey was involved in it, that he was at the top of it. All of this stuff you're seeing about Donald Trump's with the Russians, Donald Trump needs to be impeached, Donald Trump, this is a smokescreen to keep our eyes off of what really happened and what's really going on. And America had better wake up to this, JJ.
Your federal government, your federal law enforcement agencies, our federal intelligence agencies, your federal government in toto has been compromised. The fact that Donald Trump has arrived and said, I'm not going to go along with the status quo anymore, is the cause for alarm for these people on the left. And ultimately, Carl, is it possible that yesterday was simply the first shot fired in an impending civil war between two irreconcilable ideologies?
I don't want our children and grandchildren to see or to participate or to fall victim to such a thing. I don't want our nation to go through such a thing. I don't know that we could survive that. Like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, when he said, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. I mean, God's people, we need to pray. We need to not be afraid to speak truth.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The J.J. McCartney Show. Exposing the truth. Exposing the lies. Exposing the deep state.
Live from the Nightside Radio Studios.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Coming to you from Nebraska by way of Alaska. Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, thank you, Marcus, and welcome back, everybody. Welcome to hour number 2 of the J.J. McCartney Show. We are live every weekday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time at redstatetalkradio.com and jjmccartney.com. All right, folks, plenty of news to catch up with this hour. We begin with a something that I have not heard in the mainstream media, a little fine print in the immigration bill. We will tell you about it next. You know, folks, anytime you buy anything, a house, a car, a boat, anything expensive, it's always a good idea to read the fine print. From WorldNet Daily comes this story. Police state national ID card tucked in major bill. Inserted in a sweeping House bill introduced earlier this month called Securing America's Future Act of 2018 is the establishment of a new biometric national ID card for all Americans that has privacy activists sounding alarms. Introduced by Representative Bob Goodman, Republican of Virginia, House Resolution 4760 encompasses issues such as education, homeland security, and the military, buried in the 400-page legal legislation is the new mandatory national identification card. A mandatory national identification system in which citizens would be required to carry a government-approved ID containing biometric features. The bill states that anyone seeking employment in the country must have the card. The purpose of the measure, part of the legislative solution to the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, or DACA as it's been come to be known, is to curb illegal immigration. It specifically addresses the shortcomings of the E-Verify system, which has failed to catch on and has failed to catch an estimated 54% of illegal immigrant workers. Ron Paul, the former Republican lawmaker and presidential candidate, known for his libertarian views, has launched a campaign against the national ID card through his nonprofit Campaign for Liberty, including an online petition. Writing to his supporters, Paul said, "The proposed ID card is exactly the type of battle that often decides whether a country remains free or continues sliding toward tyranny. WorldNet Daily asked Representative Goodlatte and his staff at the House Judiciary Committee, which he chairs, to respond to questions regarding the privacy concerns of the American people, but did not receive answers. Proponents of the measure argue that workers already are required to provide a social security number, which is part of a national database, and emphasize the benefits of curbing illegal immigration for American workers and taxpayers and the nation's security. Now, Paul fears the national database supporting the new cards could expand to include American citizens' gun ownership status, their religious beliefs, political affiliation, and virtually anything else at the stroke of a president's pen. The biometric identification information on the cards, Paul warns, which could include fingerprints, retinal scans, or scans of veins on the back of the hands, could easily be used as a tracking device. Easily. Now, Ron Paul also notes that the law would require all employers to purchase an ID scanner to verify the cards, and he fears that it would be only a matter of time before ID scans would be required for routine purchases. The national ID card, the former congressman recalls, was a key portion of the failed comprehensive immigration reform bills that both parties tried to pass during the Obama administration. Now, using the momentum behind Trump's tough talk on immigration and border security, Paul says, I'm afraid the statists believe the best way to finally enact their national ID scheme is by promoting their bill on Capitol Hill as a DACA fix, while they sell it to the GOP base as a border security measure. Paul says the national ID doesn't target any border, but instead is meant to create an all-out police state within them. Alex Noraste, a fellow at the Libertarian Cato Institute in Washington, said in a FoxNews.com column that a national ID hurts American workers while pretending to help them, calling a naked government power grab that effectively requires every American to ask government permission to get a job. American workers shouldn't have to beg or plead to anybody to get permission to work. He says being employed should be a private agreement between an employer and an employee, period. The government should not get in the way of that. He also argued that carrying around government papers with biometric identification on it conjures up images of a more technologically savvy Oceania or East Germany. He further asserted that the system would exclude millions of legal workers by accident and fail to catch the majority of illegal immigrants. For instance, if E-Verify were instituted nationwide, 3.6 million Americans would be denied employment each year and have to visit the Social Security Administration to correct their records. The employer either fires them or delays training. Will a biometric ID card make this system better? How does that help American workers? He said along with costing businesses up to $800 to buy a scanner, it would treat every American like a criminal by requiring them to enter their most intimate and personal data into a government database. You know, I've always wondered what the ultimate setup would be so that we could catch illegal immigrants and keep them from taking jobs from Americans, and also, keep them from being able to commit crimes in America. I mean, is it wrong for a sovereign nation to kick out cheaters? Is that wrong, really? Just asking the question. Okay, we've got much, much more to come. And we already mentioned the last hour, we mentioned this phenomenon with Google Home, in which they act ignorant about who Jesus is. I mean, it's really crazy stuff going on. But we got dovetailing along with the immigration deal. And this from Greg Cotarambos at WorldNet Daily. Immigration expert says Trump's deal gives away too much. Immigration policy conservatives giving President Trump's immigration reform blueprint a thumbs down after the plan moves to the left on two key issues, leaving activists fearing a more timid final bill and no end in sight to the dangerous flood of illegal immigration into the United States. The Trump framework focuses on four key areas, spending $25 billion on border security, including additional portions of a wall, extending legal status, and a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million illegal immigrants who either enrolled in the Deferred Action for Children Arrivals program or are eligible for it. That limits chain migration to only spouses and minor children and ending the visa lottery. Now, the Center for Immigration Studies, or CIS, sees two major problems with Trump's more moderate approach: a sudden embrace of amnesty and a refusal to tighten the screws enough on chain migrants. CIS research fellow Andrew Arthur says Trump's offer of a pathway to citizenship goes far beyond the DACA recipients and will ultimately include way more than 1.8 million. Now, we've seen similar proposals in the past. There have been amnesties floated. Amnesties passed. Inevitably, the number of people who end up being granted is higher than the number that was anticipated. Inevitably, there is going to be a certain level of fraud in the process. Logically, you're going to have to identify that you've been in the United States since a certain time, and the documents you can offer are generally fairly vague. And by including illegal immigrants who are not part of the DACA program, Arthur says Trump is inviting a bureaucratic nightmare for U.S. citizenship and immigration service, saying if it was simply the 690,000 DACA people, USCIS already knows who those people are and can do a one-to-one match. When you're talking about an additional 1.1 million individuals, that's going to require brand new files being opened, documents being released or reviewed. And the fact is, the USCIS just doesn't have the bandwidth to do that work right now. Arthur is generally pleased with the movement to limit chain migration, keeping it to spouses and minor children, as opposed to the current law, which allows adult children, siblings, and parents. However, He says Trump is making a big mistake in how he wants to implement this plan. The problem is that the framework will also make those changes, will also make those changes prospectively, not retroactively. It's going to process through the 4 million people who are currently in that backlog, people who have had petitions filed on their behalf, and who are waiting a number in order to apply and go through the process of being vetted. Arthur says that's a pretty big concern of ours because, of course, you're going to end up potentially giving an additional 4 million people legal status. But while some conservatives are wary of President Trump's plan, most Democrats are greeting Trump's plan as a policy retreat, and they're giving it a full condemnation. They said dreamers should not be held hostage to President Trump's crusade to tear families apart and waste billions of American tax dollars on an ineffective wall. That, according to Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin, who says Trump is reaching for a hardline immigration agenda on the backs of young people. Arthur is not surprised, says that's just plain sanctimony. I could have anticipated what Dick Durbin was going to say, and I could have written it myself. Democrats and liberal immigration activists accuse Trump of clamping down on legal immigration because of his efforts to limit chain migration and kill the visa lottery. But Arthur says there's a very good reason for imposing limitations. The proposals set forth in the framework are necessary changes that we need in order to ease the problems that got us here to begin with. The fact is, there are huge loopholes in the law that allow unaccompanied alien children to show up at a port of entry. They don't even have to enter illegally. Once in the United States, the U.S. government officials will complete the work of the smugglers that brought them to the border to begin with, and reunite them with family members or friends or other individuals in the United States who will take care of them. Now, this is a huge problem, and it's a huge magnet that draws minors to the United States. Now, why is that a huge problem? Arthur says that magnet leaves kids vulnerable to unspeakable horrors at the hands of their smugglers, so long as their parents of those kids think their children are virtually guaranteed a chance to live in the U.S. Human trafficking, sexploitation. The people who engage in these activities do not simply smuggle people for money. The fact is, they rob, they rape, they hold people ransom for money. They do that with children as well. Turning off that magnet is an absolutely crucial element of any plan that's going to grant any kind of amnesty to any population of DACA people. Arthur sees positives and negatives for the political path forward on immigration. He's deeply concerned that Trump's willingness to compromise at the outset will ultimately lead to a far worse bill. Inevitably, bills like this are a race to the bottom. If you say you're going to allow 1.8 million people who got here on X date, why not people who got here on X date plus 1 year? Or if we accept people who came here below the age of 16, why not people who got here below the age of 18? At the same time, Arthur says some House conservatives are not happy with Trump's plan and may be able to improve it. There are some individuals in the House who are vociferously opposed to this plan. You can anticipate that those individuals will attempt to pare back the amazingly generous proposal that the president has made. While he has serious problems with Trump's concessions, Arthur says Democrats are foolish to demonize a major outreach on Trump's part. Quite frankly, if the Democrats don't take this deal, said Arthur, and they end up scuttling it, this is going to be on their heads. Just like so many other things regarding illegal immigration. Folks, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back with more in just a minute.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney back here for our good friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. You know, folks, there's one thing that there never seems to be a shortage of in this world, and that is uncertainty, unrest. You know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Natural disasters, economic downturns, whatever it is, you can be prepared by going to MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. They have got everything you need, from ProPure gravity-fed water filtration systems to Kimberly stoves to these composting toilets. Ladies and gentlemen, at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com, you can prepare for anything. Food storage? No problem. Advice? No problem. Call our good friend Sue at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Find out what's there for you. Great prices, great advice, and guess what, folks? You'll find it all at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com.
Someday there'll be a cure. Someday we won't lose the people we love. But when is someday? Someday is today. Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, hundreds of thousands diagnosed with blood cancer are today living a normal life. We're making cures happen. Join us. Call 888-HELP-LLS or go to LLS.org. Help us reach today sooner.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
There's a nasty little criminal on the loose.
It could be in your area. In fact, it could be in your backyard.
It's the Asian longhorn beetle.
Yeah, that's right. A beetle, the insect kind.
Black and white, long striped antenna. It's a tree killer.
This is one bad beetle. It's caused the destruction of thousands of trees already.
Thing is, we can't spot it now. It's gone undercover, inside the trees.
Cold weather drives it into hiding.
So now, it's a game of waiting it out.
What can you do to help?
You can be a beetle buster and protect the trees.
Don't move firewood, because the beetle, its larvae, its eggs, they could be in the wood.
If you move firewood, you could spread the beetle.
So buy it locally, burn it locally. Got it?
It's as simple as black and white. Don't move firewood.
Be a beetle buster. Learn more at beetlebusters.info.
That's beetlebusters.info. A message from the USDA.
Hey, guess what? We're back. It's Monday, the 29th day of January. I am Mr. Mello, J.J. McCartney here on the Monday Rundown, and we've got more news to bring to you. Okay, folks. There is an effort afoot, and it has been aggressively pursued by the left for a very long time. And now we're going to blow the lid off of it. This from Jason and David Benham. The headline reads, Mind-blowing plot to sexually confuse America's little ones. You know, Vladimir Lenin once said, give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted. Last week, in our hometown, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School Board voted 7-2 to sow seeds of sexual confusion into the minds of our school children. And they're not just doing it for 4 years. They're beginning in kindergarten. It all came about when the school board decided to expand the definition of diversity in its multicultural policy to include gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. The board stated that it will intentionally incorporate diversity throughout the curriculum, instruction, and professional development. In other words, Charlotte schools will now intentionally incorporate gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation into the curriculum of the school system. Instead of focusing on better performance in reading, writing, and arithmetic, where CMS continues to skim the bottom, Charlotte teachers will now designate time to ask students questions like, who do you go to bed with? Who do you go to bed as? And how would you like to express your gender today? 2 years ago, CMS introduced the gender unicorn to push sexual confusion on our kids. It was soundly slapped back into place by concerned parents, I should say. Today, it's taking the back door approach by simply expanding the term diversity to an already existing policy. It sounds like President Obama's redefinition of the word sex in Title IX. The Benhams say, we've said it for years, and we'll say it again now. The radical LGBTQ plus agenda has gone from acceptance to appreciation to celebration and now to forced participation. Our kids all will be forced to participate in this revolution one way or another, regardless of what parents feel about it. To say this is indoctrination is putting it lightly. It's deliberately sowing seeds of sexual confusion into the fertile minds of future generations, and it will be difficult to uproot. And that's not all. The National Institutes of Health is now launching a new $5.7 million study that is intentionally aimed to produce evidence that transgender affirmation therapy is safe and effective for gender dysphoric youngsters. Wait a minute. Hold up. That means the federal government is now intentionally seeking to produce science that supports sex changes for kids, both chemically and surgically. John Stonestreet and Shane Morris, writing for Breakpoint Daily, revealed what's really going to happen to these kids, saying, let's be clear about what affirmation therapy really means. Children are given high doses of puberty-suppressing drugs. Doctors then flood their systems with testosterone or estrogen to induce the formation of opposite-sex characteristics like breasts in males and facial hair in females. Some patients, partway through the process, will undergo sex reassignment surgery in which their internal and even external genitals are removed or remodeled. And we're paying $5.7 million of our tax dollars to support this? The National Institutes of Health completely ignores mountains of evidence revealing the psychological damage this has already caused transgender people. Yet they're still going to push this on our youngsters. The reason why is because truth doesn't matter when it comes to the LGBTQ plus agenda. Complete dominion over society, including the hearts, minds, and bodies of our children, is the goal. But, and that's a big but, there's always hope, because the truth still sets people free. It has since the beginning of time, and it will continue until the end. So here's some truth you can give to anyone in your circle that may be influenced by today's seeds of sexual and gender confusion. Quote, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I could count them, they are more than the sand. I awake, and I am still with you." That's the 139th chapter of Psalms, verses 13 to 18. If you teach that to a youngster, and they really believe it, there is no power on earth that can uproot the hope and healing that will fill their hearts and minds. Ladies and gentlemen, a little more than 40 years ago, a celebrity by the name of Anita Bryant became very concerned about the LGBTQ agenda being foisted on young people. And you know the response she got? Hollywood tried to laugh and shout her down. Hollywood tried to make it sound as though she were old-fashioned and prudish, simply because she was concerned about what would become of our young people in a sexually permissive society that fails to recognize the deviant nature of these alternative lifestyles. Now, I'm pretty sure that you and I share a concern for the young people of America and the world today because they are being taught that there is no moral delineation between sex between a man and a woman and the deviant acts promoted by the LGBTQ plus groups. I mean, they are targeting our young people. They are attempting to corrupt our young people. They are attempting to steal the souls of our young people. Will you stand in the gap with me to stop them? Will you pray daily that we can stop these evil people from reaching even one of our precious young people? Sadly, there are parents out there that see this as harmless. There are parents out there that are the opposite of concerned about the deviant behavior. They're trying to pass it off as being equivalent to sex as it was designed to be by God Almighty. Unless there be any doubt in anybody's mind, there is firm spiritual footing to declare that God loathes the sexual sin of Sodom and Gomorrah. God is unwavering, he's unchanging. Now people say, well, well, some people smoke and that's not good for you. Some people drink and that's not good for you. Well, that might be true. But your smoking and drinking is not a direct threat to the souls of our young people. Some people want to pretend that there isn't any difference in the degree of certain sin. And make no mistake about it, if you have young children that have yet to enter school, you need to understand that these people are already targeting your young children. They're doing it through PBS. They're doing it through the mass media. They're doing it through music. And you need to understand where this comes from. This comes from the pit of hell. This comes from Satan himself, accompanied by scores of demons that prey on young, impressionable minds, and they subscribe to the theories of Vladimir Lenin. We might be the only thing standing between these young people and the perilous damnation of the LGBTQ behaviors. So will you stand with us? Will you pray every day? Fall on your knees before God and ask Him to deliver our children from this indoctrination and from this heinous abomination. 855-853-5227 is our toll-free telephone number. This is the Monday Rundown. We'll be right back.
If you agree with JJ's conservative pillars for rescuing America's economy, stay tuned for more. If you are a liberal and think everything is okay, you can go pet your unicorn now.
When you look at the way the House of Representatives has been run, it has been run like a plantation, and you know what I'm talking about. I am sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and you disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic, and we should stand up and say, we are Americans and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
I remember landing under sniper fire. We just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles.
Problem is, that's not what happened. And we should know, CBS News accompanied the First Lady and daughter Chelsea on that Bosnia trip. A reminder that in politics, memory should always match the videotape.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
There isn't any evidence that anybody gave me any favorable treatment.
Look at all the skullduggery in the Clinton administration. All roads lead back to Hillary, back to Hillary, back to Hillary.
Okay, so you may not be a doctor, a scientist, or a medical researcher, but you can still put cancer out of business. Just put one foot in front of the other and join the Light the Night Walk to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Family, friends, co-workers, anyone can do it. And when we all walk on this night, cancer runs. Because every dollar we raise helps LLS accelerate a potential cure and gives hope to cancer patients and their families. LLS has saved hundreds of thousands of lives since Light the Night took its first steps. Want to bring cancer to its knees? Vote with your feet. Join now at lightthenight.org. It's the easiest way to get from someday to today.
You're listening to the J.J. McCartney Show with me, J.J. McCartney. on jjmccartney.com.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We are back on the Monday Rundown here on the J.J. McCartney Show. Thanks to everybody for listening today. Always wonderful to have you with us. Those of you listening at redstatetalkradio.com, thanks for joining us, as well as those of you at jjmccartney.com. Whether you're listening to the audio or watching the streaming live video, we are very happy to have you with us, and we do thank you for joining us. Okay, folks, we do have more to bring you, and pardon me, I'm just clicking a few buttons to get ahead of my workload here this afternoon, so I appreciate you all sticking around. Okay, here is the deal. You remember the story, and if you don't, we'll share it with you. 1517 to Paris. Heroes who stopped bloody terror attack give credit to God. U.S. Army National Guard Specialist Alec Scarlatos, along with Anthony Sadler and Staff Sergeant of the U.S. Air Force Spencer Stone. No doubt people would refer to these men as heroes. Armed with an AK-47, a pistol, a box cutter, 270 rounds of ammunition, and a bottle of gasoline during a high-speed railway ride, Ayub el-Kazani's mission was clear: slaughter every passenger on a crowded train transporting more than 500 lives. El-Kazani, an Islamic jihadist, shot and slashed passengers with a knife until he encountered something that he hadn't anticipated. 3 brave Americans who refused to give in to fear. A gunshot cracked in the air like thunder, followed by the sound of shattering glass. With no time to waste, and amid screams and panic, U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Spencer Stone, U.S. Army National Guard Specialist Alec Scarlatos, and Anthony Sadler, a California State University student, tore down the aisle. They sprinted toward the gunman, a 26-year-old Moroccan national and alleged ISIS recruit, as he pointed his weapon at them, knowing that at any moment the jihadist could unleash his firepower and execute him on the spot. Stone tackled El-Kazani. Scarlatos wrestled the attacker, wrestled the attacker's weapon from him, but the jihadist pulled out a box cutter and began slashing Stone. All 3 men fought El-Kazani, disarmed him, and rendered the assailant unconscious, saving many innocent lives in a courageous act that would leave much of America bustling with pride. Stone, Scarlatos, and Sadler then tended to other injured passengers on the train until paramedics and police arrived. The 3 young men made international news for their heroic efforts. And now Hollywood director Clint Eastwood is retelling their story in the new film, The 1517 to Paris. Eastwood enlisted the 3 heroes to play themselves in the film. While some might say luck was on their side, the 3 men who thwarted the attack told WorldNet Daily they believe God was the guiding force who gave them courage and protection on that fateful day. In the back of our minds, we know that we had always in our lives God's hand of protection on us. Sadler explained in an exclusive interview, it's in those moments of decision that our destiny is shaped, he said. You have a choice to either act or don't. The choice to either go one way or the other. Sadler said, luckily, we made the right decision. I think that was the decision we were supposed to make because he put us there for a reason. Stone told WorldNet Daily, we definitely took a leap of faith, getting up out of our seats. We didn't know if we were going to make it through or not. You're going 200 miles on a train in the middle of nowhere. This guy's got an automatic weapon. We saw an opportunity and we just took it. U.S. Army National Guard Specialist Alec Scarlatos and Sergeant Spencer Stone and Cal State University student Anthony Sadler. Heroes. There was another factor that contributed to their success. Enduring friendship. Enduring friendship. The three men have been best friends since they attended middle school in California together. Sadler said the three share a lifetime of trust, support, and loyalty. There's two reasons we got up. The faith is an aspect that is twofold. Having the faith in God to get up in the first place. And then there's faith in each other as friends. Just being lifelong friends. And an inspiring story, no doubt. After the three hog-tied the attacker using necktie, they hog-tied him with a necktie. That's just classic. Stone, a trained paramedic, noticed a nearby passenger, Mark Mugalian, a 51-year-old professor who was bleeding profusely from the neck and spewing blood across the aisle. Earlier, Mugalian had also tackled El Kazani and managed to secure the AK-47. But the jihadist whipped out a pistol, shot Mugalian in the neck, and retrieved the rifle before the three Americans arrived. Stone stuck his finger in Mugalian's neck to staunch the bleeding. The chances of everything lining up the way it did during the August 21st, 2015 attack. A terrorist crossing paths with veterans who have military and medical training that would prove critical are 1 in a million, according to Scarlatos, a member of the Oregon Army National Guard's 41st Infantry Brigade combat team, who had just finished a tour in Afghanistan before traveling to Europe to vacation with his two friends. Just amazing. An amazing story. Really, something amazing. I don't know. It's so easy to say, yeah, that's what I would have done. It is so easy to say, yep, that's what I would have done. But until you've actually been in that kind of situation, there is no knowing. There really isn't. It is, most people would never daydream about something like this. It really is amazing. Now, Spencer's training helped save Mark's life, and he helped him with first aid. Scarlatos told WorldNet Daily, my infantry training prepared me for this situation, to worry about security, how to handle weapons, and things like that. He continued, if you look at the statistics of everything that happened. I mean, just the odds of being in a terrorist attack are astronomical. The odds of surviving it and being the ones who stopped it, and the odds of our exact situation happening to us are too astronomical to believe that it was just a purely chance. Essentially, when you look at, the fact that we were thinking about staying in Amsterdam another day and then we didn't, it's honestly hard for even us to remember all the different circumstances that put us there in the first place. That exact time, that exact place. But to me, it's just too coincidental to be chance. I really think God had a hand in it. We were vessels being used. Eastwood presented Sadler, Scarlatos, and Stone with the Hero Award at the June 2016 Guy's Choice Awards in June of 2016. They had finished writing a book about the terror attack. They said, we were getting ready to publish the book, and we knew we were going to go back in the green room and talk with Clint Eastwood. We thought, this is right up his alley. The real-life stories that he does as a director, we have to say something to him. So we go back there, and we said jokingly, hey, we are writing a book right now. You should make it into a movie, he said. Here's my address. Send me the book. I'll tell you what I think, said Eastwood. The veteran director and producer did not initially respond to the men's proposal. But Stone didn't give up. I sent him a book. A few months went by. I didn't hear from him. I think I messed up the address. And then I sent him a book with a letter, and I got the address right. And I got a call from him a few days later. He said he loved the story, and he was going to even put a project he was currently working on hold to pick up our story. I mean, that's just amazing. It really is. I've always been a Clint Eastwood fan, going all the way back to the days of Rawhide. And it's just, that story. First of all, I can't wait to read the book and see the movie. Let's see what they do with it. But, folks need to understand, God makes us ready. God makes us ready for these types of things. And if we are faithful to Him, walking in His way, we avail ourselves, and then, yes, we become vessels. I cannot tell you how many times that I have found myself in situations where I say to myself, okay, if trouble breaks out, what would I do? And invariably, trouble never broke out. But how amazing that these men recognized the situation, and they didn't even have to speak. They just knew. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that's the grace of God in action. You cannot overstate the impact that one incident had on the lives of those 500 people. Why is the mainstream media so reluctant? Why are they so reluctant to talk about things like this? They're all too busy oohing and eyeing over celebrities. Well, here are a few real-life heroes. And Clint Eastwood telling their story. That's amazing. All right, folks, tomorrow on the Tuesday program, we're going to cover the news like a blanket. News and commentary the way it used to be. Straightforward. Frank and truthful. All right, my friends, be good to yourselves, and if you possibly can, be good to someone else. And remember, we'll win in the end because there are more of us than there are of them, because God is with us, and because we are all in this thing together. Have a great rest of your Monday. We will see you on Tuesday. Until then, God bless. Bye-bye.